UFC 324. These are the full card predictions and the betting breakdown. I am looking forward to talking about the first card of 2026. The excitement is through the roof right now for me. We got the Paramount debut upon us. So make sure you guys smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on. Make sure you share the video too. Fight Companion going down Saturday, 5 p.m. Eastern time. It feels so good to say it. We're back after the 6-week hiatus. I'll be live for the entire card. Do not miss it. And let's jump into the first fight of the night. Ty Miller versus Adam Fugitt. Ty Miller should box Adam Fugitt's head off. I think that Ty Miller's hands are going to be a relatively large advantage for him in this matchup against Fugitt. He's going to have better boxing combinations. He's also going to have a half-inch reach advantage. I'll tell you, most of the time, Adam Fugitt is a guy that has the range edge, and I believe that is an element of his game that has been able to get him wins against guys that I don't necessarily think he was much better than, but his reach advantage, his bit of power and willingness to throw hard shots has been able to find him success. So here he's given up the reach by half an inch against a guy that's just better at boxing than he is. Ty Miller does a good job of catching people on the end of the punch, which I think is a big element in this fight here. I think Fugitt's going to be getting thudded up with some hands. I do think he tries to wrestle. I think Fugitt's best bet is to try and make this a dirty fight, get it to the ground, maybe look for a submission, throw some big shots from top. But I think Ty Miller is going to be pretty hard to get control of. Say quality footwork. I was impressed. The win against Jimmy Drago, he looked good on the Contender Series in a back and forth, but still very one-sided fight. Ty Miller put on a bit of a masterclass, but his opponent obviously had a good chin, took some big damage, and showed a lot of guts. I don't think Adam Fugitt is going to have that same level of Jimmy Drago ex-addict chin. You understand me? Adam Fugitt is a guy that has, been knocked out, and you look at the recent results. He got crushed by Dulatov, and then, he had the win against Quinlan by split decision, but Quinlan off steroids was terrible. Mike Malott finished him off. Like, you got to give him some respect for, going into the later stages against Michael Morales. But this is years ago. All of his losses are finished losses. I think Ty Miller continues to add to the recent finish loss streak. I don't know, is it all of his losses by finish? But his last three, the UFCLs, are finish losses. I should pull that back a little bit. He went distance against Austin Vanderford years ago and lost. I think Ty Miller boxes his face off. I think Ty Miller looks good. Blue chip prospect at 25 with slick hands and long arms, 6'2", 170 pounds. I think the kid's got a bright future in the game. I'm looking forward to seeing some more from him. And I think this weekend, it's one of those matchups that, can start the UFC career off, I think, pretty right. I want to look at the betting lines for this one here. Let me zoom on in so it doesn't look all funky over here. So we got the fight of the early portion of the card, okay? Scrolling on down. Ty Miller versus Adam Fugitt. So Miller sitting around minus 425 as a huge favorite, but I think he should be. I don't think Fugitt's got much of a chance. This is also a late notice addition to the card. They added it, I believe, early this year, at the end of last year. It's the first 2026 breakdown. So, it was added relatively recent, okay? Plus 355 for the Fugitt side. And then we're looking at some of the props that are available since they have them out. I got to give them a gander. Over 1.5 at minus 166. So I will say this. Though I rate Ty Miller as a good boxer and definitely a guy with some upside of knockout chance, there are decisions on the resume, and he's a guy that maybe a little bit more volume accumulation of damage as opposed to this one-shot KO power, but he does crack, and I'll say this. He does have a 45-second KO. He's boxed professionally before. Adam Fugitt, live to be a sitting duck for big shots. I think he gets finished at some point. Over 1.5 could end up happening, but I don't know with Fugitt coming off a bad loss last time. He's 37 years old. Where's his head at in the game, Trying to see, do we have a Miller by KO line? Plus 117. I think Miller's live for a KO. I think plus 117 makes a little bit of sense here. I don't think it's a terrible idea. So the call for me is Ty Miller, not only to win, but to style on Adam Fugitt. I think Ty Miller puts on like a performance to be proud of, you know? I think he goes out and he shows out. And I think that the stand-up is going to look pretty sharp. I expect him to be able to land some big punches on Adam Fugitt, who I think is a little bit hittable down the center line and potentially shut the lights off. I'm going to say knockout win for Ty Miller in the UFC Paramount debut fight. So I'm expecting a finish to start things off right and expect a high-paced fight too. Next one, Ricky Turcios versus Cameron Smotherman. I don't really love this fight. I hope that I'm wrong about it, but I expect 29-28 competitive decision. It potentially goes either way, but I'm a lean Cameron Smotherman. That's going to be the pick, lean. Let me not use that word. I'm going to predict that Cameron Smotherman wins by decision. His boxing is better. No doubt about it. He's the better striker between the two. Ricky Turcios at times can be very passive and low output on the feet, kind of slow twitch with his stand-up. Has that very like high guard, but it almost like reminds me of a throwback jiu-jitsu style with like slightly better punching in the early days of MMA. Like Turcios' stand-up is pretty mediocre. Where he shines is Brazilian jiu-jitsu. His wrestling's not great. I do think he has okay wrestling skills, but he's not like a great wrestler. He can hit some takedowns, you know, and I do think that Cameron Smotherman's weakness has been his susceptibility to takedowns, but I think the athleticism, the speed, the striking prowess, and the defensive grappling, I think those elements of the fight should be enough for Cameron Smotherman to, at the very least, avoid being put in a very bad position. I could see Turcios hitting him with a takedown or a trip against the cage. I can see Turcios having a moment on top, but I predict that Smotherman's going to mind his P's and Q's pretty well. Young guy at 28, so like I expect improvement after improvement with the recent fights. Not that Turcios is old, he's still young at 32, but he hasn't really shown improvement. I mean, if you guys watched the Ultimate Fighter season that Turcios won, I think he's the same guy. I'd argue he might even be worse than when he won that season. So I really feel like Cameron Smotherman should show out in this matchup here. I expect some big shots on the feet to land. I think that he's going to be able to stop some of the takedowns, but at points he'll be on his back. Unfortunately, I worry that he'll lose a round because of it. I think that he avoids getting his back taken. That's the real risk, right? Like Ricky Turcios was able to capitalize on Raul Rosas' mistake in grappling, end up on, you know, the back. And then if not for the crimson chin that Raul Rosas has, he's getting the choke. So there is a possibility of a fluky submission by Ricky Turcios. I want to emphasize that. I don't feel like the Cameron Smotherman side, you can walk forward with supreme confidence on the prediction, but I check the boxes off like this. Athleticism advantage, striking advantage, physically stronger guy. And I do feel like the fighter with a higher ceiling. And I think that Ricky Turcios is a bit slow on the feet. And Smotherman should be able to outdo that. He should be able to land bigger shots. He should be able to stop most of the takedowns. He should be able to survive the onslaught. I mean, you look at the last two guys Smotherman has fought. Seri City, who's a really slick striker, and Ricky Simone, long-time UFC veteran, beast of a wrestler. And like he landed some takedowns on Smotherman. He didn't do immense damage, but he did dominate for a good portion of the fight. But Smotherman's still throwing shots on the feet. Like he's not bad. He's not bad. Ricky Turcios' UFC wins are split decisions. Brady Heastan, and it could have been controversial, and Kevin Natividad. Outside of that, Elder Zahabi, Elder Rosas, Elder Sopai. I think we see Smotherman on the scorecards. I think Turcios is hard to finish. I think Turcios has a, relatively good chin. He hasn't been knocked out since pre-UFC. But I think we're going to see Smotherman hand raised 29-28. 29-28, relatively competitive, but should be a victory for the Smotherman side. Let's look at the betting line. So minus 190 right there in your face to plus 165. Smotherman, nearly a 2-1 favorite. I'm curious, opening odds had him as wide as minus 350. So there has been some betting side love on Ricky Turcios. I think I get the Turcios love simply because of the possibility of success on the ground, but I don't know, man. Turcios, he's not a great finisher. I know he almost got Raul Rosas in a sub in round one, but like, should almost getting him in a sub and then getting subbed himself and dominated besides like a couple of moments in that fight really lead us to think that he's going to tap out Smotherman? I'm going to say no. There goes distance at minus 164. Obviously, if Smotherman's winning, I think he's getting on the cards. Really no other props worth mentioning at this point. So the prediction for me, Cameron Smotherman, the minus 190 favorite to go out to win. And I think he should get it done on the judges' scorecards. And yeah, start off 2026 with a W. And Ultimate Fighter winner Turcios, unfortunately, might be looking at getting the pink slip and the walk-in papers. Next fight on the card, we got Josh Hokit versus Denzel Freeman. I think Josh Hokit's got to be the pick in this fight right here. Hokit is small as far as the body weight for the heavyweight division, but the thing is, he's a better wrestler than most of these guys, especially most of these lower tier heavyweights. Josh Hokit, legit with the, collegiate wrestling background, and he has also shown good MMA wrestling. The guy can control people. He's controlled bigger and heavier guys than him. He's beating people up with ground and pound. He's kind of bringing the ground and pound back. It's a lost art, man. And Josh Hokit does have good ground and pound, but on top of having some solid ground and pound training with Jackson Wink, I think that his stand-up is kind of coming together a little bit. He's a good boxer. When I say good, I mean good on the scale of where he is as far as the ranking goes, being a guy outside of the top 15 and, only being 28 in the heavyweight division. He's pretty young. Hockey can, mix it up a bit. His athleticism carries. He's a lot more of a, speedy heavyweight than some of these more sloppy guys out there. Denzel Freeman, my problem with him is passiveness. If you look, even go watch his loss to Pinson in PFL. Snooze fest, man. Like he throws a couple of big punches, but he's kind of willing to just back up, wait for his takedown shot, throw, a few and then move, kind of like what he did in his UFC debut against Buyo. That was an awful fight. Denzel Freeman has a habit of being passive. Now, I will say he does have a really nice win against Steven Asplund. This W right here, because Steven Asplund is one of the fan favorite heavyweight prospects, but Steven Asplund's clear weakness is grappling. And Denzel Freeman is an okay wrestler. Denzel Freeman is a former pro wrestler too, but he's got actual wrestling skills. He's southpaw with a little bit of boxing, but likes to loop some shots over the top into takedowns. He's not going to be able to out wrestle Josh Hokit. I think Josh Hokit has the wrestling advantage. I think Josh Hokit is the guy that probably ends up in top position. And then when I look at the striking, I think Hokit's going to be able to land first on Denzel Freeman. I think that being the faster boxer between the two of them is going to be a nice advantage for him. I think he, thuds up Denzel Freeman with some clean shots. I like the way Hokit's developing on the feet. He does seem to have some punch power, definitely has some speed. And, with the wrestling background too, and the base of wrestling should be another advantage. I think this fight could potentially be Hokit with some ground and pound. Even though Freeman is, a relatively solid wrestler for the lower levels of the UFC heavyweight division, I think that Hokit's base of wrestling is more towards the higher tier. I think Hokit can get him down. I think Hokit could grind him out. I think Hokit can beat him up a bit from top position. He doesn't have to stand and pitter powder, but if they do strike, I think Hokit's quicker, man. Something that I wrote down is, with Denzel Freeman, he is like relatively decent with boxing, but so willing to just pitter patter shots. It's an element of his game that at times I don't like, that, level of passiveness. He's slower here. He's the worst wrestler. I doubt he lands a KO shot, man. I really doubt it. So I'm going to go with Josh Hokit to win. Does he get the finish? He's been finishing people as of late, but, Denzel Freeman is the biggest test of his career. I could see embracing the grind, but I don't know. I'm going to go Hokit finds a way to stop him. I think Hokit could put a little bit of a pace on him, catch him with some punches, take him down, frustrate him. I'm curious to see how Denzel Freeman fares against somebody that's better at wrestling than him. And I think that element of the fight, him being the worst wrestler and him being on his back, like Denzel Freeman might be completely bankrupt if he's on his back. And Hokit from top is able to control position nicely. I would say that he is good at, passing and ground and pounding, but I'd say he's conservative with rushing it. But I do think if Denzel Freeman shows some openings, I think that we could see Hokit throwing big shots from top, wearing him down, and eventually TKOing him. So I'm going to go Hokit to get the stoppage here with ground and pound. I'll say TKO is live. Maybe he shows hands and knocks Denzel Freeman out. That'd be even better, but Hokit should get it done. Minus 215 as the favorite. Freeman plus 185. Hokit is definitely the A side as far as the heavyweight division prospects go. He's one to keep an eye on. Over 1.5. I mean, fight probably starts round 2, but it could also end around this mark. I'm telling you, we really don't know. What is Denzel Freeman going to look like when he's on his back? I think it comes down to, is he completely bankrupt from bottom? KO is plus 138. I do think Hokit is live to win with some ground and pound at around that plus 130 range. I'm a favor Josh Hokit to go out and bust Denzel Freeman up. He should be the better fighter. He's got a lot more potential. He's definitely the quicker fighter as far as stand-up goes. And then with the high-level wrestling background, I say Hokit handles business here and dominates Denzel Freeman. Next fight on the card, Michael Johnson versus Alexander Hernandez. I'm going with Michael Johnson. I just have the hunch that Johnson's hand speed is going to be a bit of a factor here. The way Johnson has been put out in the past, if you go and watch fights where he's been knocked out, a lot of times they're like loopy overhand shots. Josh Emmett caught him with a big overhand, Carlos Diego Ferreira, the big overhand. But I don't know with, Alexander Hernandez. I know he's been knocking people out as of late, one of them being Diego Ferreira, but granted, it was Grandpa Diego Ferreira, not the same one that Michael Johnson fought nearly 3 years ago. He knocked out Chase Hooper, but Chase Hooper's bankrupt in striking. Michael Johnson is a tricky southpaw with fast hands. He's got good long-range tools with the boxing. He's got a nasty straight left. He's got a knockdown on Daniel Zellhuber. I think that Michael Johnson needs to be respected as far as, these unranked guys go in the lightweight division, even though he's been around for too long. 16 of 15 in the UFC, an Ultimate Fighter veteran. Was it tough? Season 11, I believe. I think we see Michael Johnson have some success here. I think he's faster. Even at 39, I think he's faster than Alexander Hernandez with his hands. Hernandez is a guy that likes to use a lot of footwork and move, but I think that kind of falls into the Michael Johnson boxing style. I think Johnson's going to be able to pop some good straight punches and get a rhythm going and find shots on Hernandez. I actually think Hernandez should look to wrestle a bit. Hernandez should try and mix in some takedowns, and with the mixing in of takedowns, maybe then he could find a big punch over the top that hurts Michael Johnson. But I just think the two of them are going to end up tangling in more of a kickboxing-based fight. And with that hunch, I think that Michael Johnson's hand speed is going to be an X factor in the fight. Michael Johnson is like, the worst, best fighter of all time, or the best, worst. Like, he's beaten guys like Dustin Poirier and Edson Barboza. He's lost to guys like Darren Elkins, right? But granted, that was at 145. Both of these two, Hernandez and Johnson, both kind of sucked at 145. They're a lot better at 155. Michael Johnson has put it together recently, 3-1, right? In his last 4 fights. The other side, 4-1 in the last 5 for Hernandez. But I think Michael Johnson can win with the striking. I think he's a better boxer. He's faster. I see him popping straight shots on Hernandez. I see straight lefts getting through. I think Hernandez is going to try to throw some hard kicks, try to close the gap, and try to catch Johnson in a barrage and potentially hurt him. I don't know. I just think Michael Johnson is going to be able to find shots from range and like poke at Alexander Hernandez a lot and then get in his flow and then catch him with some decent punches and make him pay as, Hernandez attempts to open up. I'm going to say Michael Johnson gets this one done. I'm kind of thinking Johnson on the judges' scorecards. I think Johnson by decision. I think Hernandez and him, it's going to be interesting to see round 3. That's really what I hope to see. I think round 3, as this fight slows down, Hernandez maybe can find some bigger shots in that 3rd round. And then, Johnson would be a potential sitting duck for power shots, if he does slow down in round 3. But I'll say that Michael Johnson goes out and wins, man. I have to rate that Daniel Zellhuber victory as a real big deal. And I know some will say, oh, but that Hernandez, Ferreira win is huge. The thing is with Diego Ferreira is like, he's so washed though. And I predicted Hernandez as an underdog to win that fight by knockout, by the way. So it's not like I'm a Hernandez doubter, if you haven't watched the show before. I also really was blown away by Johnson upsetting Zellhuber because that was a result that didn't seem likely to happen. I feel like this one for Michael Johnson, I feel like Hernandez has fallen into his style. Johnson with a little range advantage, Johnson a little taller. I'm going to say that Michael Johnson puts 4 in a row. I think he puts 4 in a row together. And I think, crazy enough, in 2026, Michael Johnson might have a chance to fight in the top 15, which is absolutely wild when you think about how crazy his up and down career has been. But I'll say Michael Johnson gets his 25th pro win, and I think he's beaten Alexander Hernandez this Saturday. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. This is a big deal fight for the unranked. Minus 142 for Hernandez. He's not a huge favorite. Plus 122 for Michael Johnson, slight underdog. Hernandez open as a 3-1 favorite. A lot of money has come down, and the line is evened out by a fair margin. And I'm not surprised. Michael Johnson is a very live underdog here. And I think punch for punch, he lands more. I think, for Hernandez, I don't want to say he needs a knockout, but it feels like he needs a knockout. Whereas I think Michael Johnson can cruise to this decision. And when I say cruise, I'm not saying it's going to be an easy fight, but I do think Michael Johnson gets on the cards. Hernandez to win by KO plus 170 currently looks to be sitting around at this moment. But I think that Johnson can survive. I think Johnson evades the big shots. I think hand speed comes in handy. And I think that, Alexander Hernandez has a bit of power, but let's not overrate his power because he put away an aging Diego Ferreira and a glass jaw Chase Hooper. So I'm going to go with Michael Johnson to pull off the upset here and get it done. Paramount, Michael Johnson, 2026, getting a win. How crazy. Next fight on the card, Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. I think it's about time Charles Johnson breaks into the upper echelon of the flyweight division. I mean, this is a guy that has a win over Joshua Van, the current champion, which is, kind of madness to think about it. But Charles Johnson has been spectacular. I mean, the only loss you see 2 fights ago, Ramazan Temurov, the dude tested positive for banned substances and was pulled out of his scheduled fight against Asu Almabayev. You have to assume, in that Charles Johnson fight, Temurov was on a little something too. And Johnson still was able to win the 3rd round against him. I really think that Charles Johnson is on the cusp of making a run at 35 years old. He's one of those guys that I think are a bit of late bloomers, right? He hit his prime a little bit later in life. And I really think that an aging Alex Perez, that had a bad injury against Tatsuro Taira and then came back and actually looked pretty good against Almabayev. Let's tell it as it is. He was kind of winning. The stand-up of Perez is nice. He's got heavy leg kicks. He's got good, powerful hooks and range. He's a solid kickboxer. He's got a good base of wrestling. Alex Perez is a difficult threat for a vast majority of guys in the UFC flyweight division. But what I see as a tricky matchup that could shut him down is a long-armed, skilled kickboxer with good grappling defense in Charles Johnson. I think this is a bad matchup for Alex Perez. I think Johnson finds success catching him with straights from the outside. I think Johnson is able to avoid Alex's Perez potential takedown attempts here in this fight. And I think that Charles Johnson is going to be able to mix it up with the strikes pretty nicely. He's coming off what I think was a spectacular victory. I mean, the Lana Kavanaugh win's a big deal. Kavanaugh is an insane prospect. Kavanaugh hit him with everything but the kitchen sink round 1, nearly had Johnson out of there. Johnson survives and then knocks him out. Charles Johnson is dangerous. Charles Johnson is a guy that gets better as fights go on, which I think is another positive element in this fight. I think Alex Perez is a guy that, like, seeing the Almabayev fight, round 3, he sucks more. I feel like Charles Johnson is going to be able to outwork him. I'm curious to see how the striking matches up. I think Johnson catches Perez at the end of some of his punches from the outside. I think Johnson's pretty accurate from range. He's got real good cardio. I think he gets some volume going from the outside, works some teeps to the body. I think Perez is going to be getting caught as he looks to enter range because Perez is going to have to overcome a 4.5-inch reach differential and a 3-inch height difference, and a Charles Johnson who's got pretty good footwork and moves pretty well from the outside. I think Charles Johnson should get this one. I feel like this is the fight to really make, it all happen for Charles Johnson. Big win against Kavanaugh last time. Before that, Suma Derji, obviously the Joshua Van knockout a year and a half ago. Does he put Perez away? Not easy to do. Johnson does have pretty good timing and power, a possibility of knockout. I think knockout is live, but I feel like Johnson on the judges' scorecards is the right read here. I think he can nab 2 out of 3 rounds. Maybe Perez gives him a little trouble with pressure in round 1. Maybe he catches him with some decent leg kicks and shots. But then again, I could see Johnson 3-0 in it. I could see Johnson shutting Alex Perez down from distance. Like, I really believe that Charles Johnson's style kind of matches up as like an antithesis of what Alex Perez brings to the table. You know, a lot of guys do struggle with Perez on the feet, but I don't think Charles Johnson is going to have as many woes as even guys like, you know, Tatsuro Taira a year and 7 months ago, or like Asu Almabayev, right? Especially not like Matthias Nicolau. And it's not like Charles Johnson needs to wrestle to win, which is proven difficult against Alex Perez. I think Charles Johnson handles business here. I'm going to go Charles Johnson to get the win. And I think he looks pretty good doing it. I think this is now, you know, the breakout chance for Charles Johnson. He's expected to win this fight. He's minus 205. Many pundits agree this is now the chance for Johnson to break into the top. And listen, you beat Alex Perez. Charles Johnson is a guy that has a win over the current champ. I'm not saying he's on the short list of contenders, but another win this year. That's 3 straight. If he wins against Perez, he's on the cusp of a major later stage 2026 or potentially 2027. And it all really comes down to this fight here. This is the penultimate step for the Charles Johnson fighting career. Really, this is everything. This fight, I'm going to tell you this, is a career-defining moment. Charles Johnson will always be that guy that was right there, almost, you know, high level, but like right below the top guys if he loses this fight. That will be forever his claim. He's a good prospect beater. He's a prospect killer, but when the notch of competition turns, he always just fails right there. Or it's Charles Johnson that is a guy that blossomed late. Charles Johnson that's finally living up to something. I believe he's finally living up to something. And I think the Alex Perez fight is the perfect fight for a career-defining moment. I'm going Charles Johnson to pull off the win. Minus 205 is the favorite. I really am not crazy about the betting lines here as far as outside of just money lines. Over minus 160, I'd say relatively live, but there is a weakness in Alex Perez, and it's getting caught in submissions. Now, Charles Johnson only has 4 wins by sub as a pro. I don't want to sell it to you guys that Charles Johnson is a submission ace because, simply put, he has not. He has not won by submission since 2021, but he does have really long and skinny arms, and that is, you know, nice tell for snagging some necks. And Alex Perez has, you know, fell victim before to getting his neck snatched. So it's a wild call. I'm curious what it's going to be as we get closer. I don't think they have the Johnson submission line. They don't. I'm curious as the week goes on what a Johnson subline is going to look like, which would be very much more like if you're on the DGen prop betting side and you want to just make some magic happen. It's a possibility he snatches a neck. And I'm sure it's going to be big plus money. So I look forward to seeing it. Nonetheless, I'm going Charles Johnson to get it done over Alex Perez in the career-defining moment for himself. Next fight on the card, we got Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. My prediction here is Modestas Bukauskas. I think that Nikita Krylov is washed. I do. I think that he came back from a nice layoff, 2 years, 10 months, and then what? 2 years and 1 month off to the Dominic Reyes fight 9 months ago. And he was violently chinned. Dominic Reyes put him out in one shot, okay? He followed that up by coming back like 3.5 months later to getting knocked out in the first round by Bogdan Gushkov. Now, 5.5 months later, he fights against Modestas Bukauskas. I think Nikita Krylov's getting knocked out again. And it's not that Modestas Bukauskas is necessarily the one-shot killer, but Bukauskas has pretty good boxing. Bukauskas has definitely good boxing combinations and good striking pressure. He's very athletic and he's very primed. Even though there is not a crazy age disparity, right? They're only about 1.5 years difference in age. It's the fact that Nikita Krylov has, I think, way too many miles on the 33.5-year-old car, whereas Modestas Bukauskas has hit his prime now. I think that Krylov is on the way out. I think with the 2 knockout losses in a row, and this was a guy that was known for a good chin for a lot of his career, to start getting chinned and taking a lot of damage against Bogdan Gushkov, and even pulling for a stupid leg lock as he's getting his shit rocked. It's just, I don't think his head is necessarily in the game. That is what I'm going to say. And I think that Modestas Bukauskas' head is absolutely in the game. Bukauskas should be able to put pressure on Krylov and catch him with big punches. I think Krylov is going to wilt to the power shots. I don't think that Nikita Krylov is the same. That Ryan Spann Nikita Krylov, no, this is not that Nikita Krylov. He's not the same guy. The guy who goes distance and beats Volkan Oezdemir, you know, even the Gustafsson, it was a wash, Gus, but still knocks out Gustafsson. That is not the Nikita Krylov of today. Nikita Krylov is well past his best days. In his prime, the grappling skills were pretty damn nice. Good takedown ability, good control. The kickboxing was relatively sharp. Good long jab, right? Good straight shots from distance. Pretty comfortable on the outside. Could take a good shot. But now he looks a bit extra stiff. I don't know. The chin seems to be fading. I think he's very hittable these days. I think his reflexes have kind of gone. It's a weird comparison. You guys are going to say that I'm nuts, but it's like almost fucking reminding me of Chuck Liddell. Not to that extreme, right? But it's like on the cusp of like the Chuck Liddell fall off, where you're known for just never getting really rocked in fights, to you just fucking get knocked out every time. You know, I think Nikita Krylov is on his Chuck Liddell arc. I think it's going down. And I think he's like somehow aged 8 years in that 2-year layoff. He's a shell of his former self. And I am not going to predict a guy who I think is a shell of himself to beat a guy, Modestas Bukauskas, who trains with Tom Aspinall, is absolutely showing improvements each and every time we see him. He's also a freakish athlete. Watch him do backflips. He's athletic with good striking and power. He's got a solid ground game. Modestas Bukauskas should be able to chin an aging Nikita Krylov here. So I'm going to go Bukauskas to win via KO. I've been very high in Modestas Bukauskas. I'll tell you guys, I'm a Modestas Bukauskas fan. I am. I truly have been a Modestas Bukauskas fan over his recent rise in the UFC. And he's really started to put it together. I mean, even though the Cutelaba fight was competitive, beating Cutelaba is a big deal. Destroying Paul Craig, big deal. I think Modestas Bukauskas destroys Nikita Krylov here. Plus 117 for Krylov. Let me tell you something. What I think of that, why though? Why? Why would I bet a plus 117 Krylov? If you want to bet Krylov as an underdog and you got it at plus 200, plus 170, okay, I get it. Maybe he, is able to land some takedowns, sure. But a wash guy at plus 117, I think the value is on the opposite side. The prime Modestas Bukauskas, the line was at minus 200. It's minus 137 now? I don't know how people are confidently backing Nikita Krylov. I do not understand it. I'm telling you, I think he is washed. The way that he walks almost, it's like he doesn't have the same rhythm. I'm telling you, he's on his way out. And Modestas Bukauskas should do bad things to Nikita Krylov. He will knock him out. KO win for Modestas Bukauskas is my prediction. They say it's sitting around minus 104. I don't know if I necessarily believe that. I think that some of these prop odds might be off a little bit. But I expect Modestas Bukauskas to finish this fight. And I will predict that he knocks Nikita Krylov out in impressive fashion. And Bukauskas is on the cusp of a mega fight, heading into the real top 10 of the weight class after this one in the later stage of 2026. So give me Bukauskas, give me knockout. And I think Krylov, I think it's time to retire. Next fight on the card, it's Ateba Gautier versus Andrey Pulyaev. This is an attempted squash match, okay? This is, hey, we're up the prelims on Paramount. A lot of people should be tuned in by this time. We got the damn middleweight Francis Ngannou. It's Ateba Gautier to win all day, okay? Andrey Pulyaev is nice. I mean, he's got good long-range sniper striking from the outside. He's got relatively long arms. But this is a guy that is like the opposite of physically imposing. Nick Klein in the last fight for Andrey Pulyaev was all over him early in that fight. Beating him up, backing him up, bullying him. The weakness with Andrey Pulyaev is he has no physical strength. He's like scarecrow skinny. The guy looks like a damn toothpick. Whereas on the opposite end, he is fighting a literal freak of a human in Ateba Gautier, who is built like a Mack truck. Looks like he could fight in the heavyweight division. I don't know how he makes 185. I think it's because he's only 23. Ateba Gautier has serious knockout power in both hands. And it's not like Ateba Gautier is just some raw prospect that got into MMA at 20 and just happens to be a freak athlete. Understand, he comes from a base of Sambo. He competed in combat Sambo. Ateba Gautier is very skillful. Ateba Gautier is a guy to keep an eye on here. At 23, I'm telling you right now, Gautier is one to watch in this UFC middleweight division. And I think that Andrey Pulyaev is in a very difficult spot. Now, Pulyaev is skillful from the outside. He's a good long-range striker. He's sharp. He's a sharp shooter. The problem is he's dealing with a force. It's a wrecking ball force that is looking to demolish him. Ateba Gautier is going to walk him down and land thunderous shots. Ateba Gautier is going to damage Andrey Pulyaev on the inside. Pulyaev does not bring a substantial threat of takedown to the fight, which I think that could be an element, right? Somebody that can maybe take Gautier down and control him a little bit. Granted, his takedown defense has been getting better. Since that Naito fight on Contender Series tonight, I think it's improved. I think his skill set has gotten way better, and he's 23, so expect the skill set to improve at a rapid rate. I think Ateba Gautier is knocking Andrey Pulyaev out in... I'll give Andrey Pulyaev 3 minutes. If Andrey Pulyaev is able to survive past round 1, in some ways, that's a win. And I know you might be thinking, bro, he went distance against Christian Leroy Duncan. Christian Leroy Duncan is very skillful. Christian Leroy Duncan is a slick stand-up fighter. But he is not a freakish powerhouse like Ateba Gautier. Ateba Gautier is looking to put it on you from the moment the fight starts. And I think he's going to walk Andrey Pulyaev down and do big damage. Not only is Ateba Gautier just as tall as Pulyaev with a way bigger frame, he's also coming into this fight with a nice reach advantage, 81.5-inch reach. Pulyaev is a long-arm guy. Like, normally his reach is at the very least close to even with some of these long strikers. Gautier, power hitter from close and long range. It's too much. Ateba Gautier is going to violently destroy Pulyaev. I actually think this is the right step to build Ateba Gautier. You give him Andrey Pulyaev, and he goes out and he knocks out a guy who won on Contender Series, who I still think has a future in the UFC. I don't think Pulyaev is a scrub. He's an Alexander Shlemenko prospect. He's very good. But Ateba Gautier is a different animal. This is a battle of prospects. Make no mistake about it. This is the Russian prospect versus the Cameroonian prospect. And I'm telling you, Cameroon's got another monster, maybe better than the last one, being Francis Ngannou, the last one. I'm going to Ateba Gautier by knockout. It's a one-sided fight. Not going to be competitive. He's going to walk Pulyaev down, and he is going to wreck him. Minus 800 for Ateba Gautier, Pulyaev plus 550. I will look at what's available for the props, but I do not anticipate much. Under 1.5 expected at minus 190. I'm going to say yes, it goes under 1.5. Gautier to win by KO around minus 257. I anticipate Gautier by KO probably is in the minus 250 range. And I will tell you, I think we are going to see Ateba Gautier do very bad things to Andrey Pulyaev early in the fight. I really think 3 minutes or less. I think it's a destructive performance. I guess I should double check the under half a round mark. What is that? Plus 150. That's not even great. But I think, under half a round is live for Ateba Gautier. I'm going Gautier. I'm going destructive performance. Not just win. Destructive performance. KO. Next fight on the card, we have our featured prelim of the night. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Deiveson Figueiredo. My prediction is that Umar Nurmagomedov is able to beat Deiveson Figueiredo. Now, I anticipate Deiveson Figueiredo to look a lot better in this fight than he did against Corey Sandhagen. The rumor mill is he went into that Sandhagen fight at much less than 100%. And obviously, early knee injury in the fight, he got stopped. But that is not the true potential of what Deiveson Figueiredo can do against guys in the top 5. Deiveson Figueiredo, fight before that, still was able to survive the Petr Yan onslaught, go distance. Listen, Figueiredo is one of the best flyweights of all time. Moving up to bantamweight, he doesn't have the same championship potential. Don't get it twisted. But he's a very skillful striker with power and straight shots. One of the hardest hitting flyweights of all time with power that is translated up in weight. I mean, he was able to knock down Marlon Chito Vera. The fight against Montel last time, he got a split decision. Montel Jackson's a tough customer. And he still was able to win a split decision. But I wasn't blown away by a competitive performance against Montel Jackson. But I was, impressed to see after the knee injury, Figueiredo come back and win. So I just want to say there are some positive things around Deiveson Figueiredo. The problem is he's fighting Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar Nurmagomedov is going to dominate this fight. Umar is going to have the ability to land the key takedowns. Deiveson Figueiredo is going to struggle when it's, pound for pound strength and physicality. Umar is going to beat them. Umar's going to beat that. It's going to be too much. Davison's got good jiu-jitsu, but he's not going to be able to deal with the Dagestani wrestling. I think Umar is going to be pretty precise with landing some key takedowns. I mean, the fact that he was able to beat the workhorse and Mario Batista last time, come on. Granted, Batista was able to drop him with the knee. Like, there's moments. Listen, Davis and Figueiredo, maybe he lands a big shot and Umar gets flash knocked down, but then he gets up and dominates the whole fight. You know, that's kind of Umar Nurmagomedov's recent selling point. He gets knocked down at times, but he gets back the fuck up and he dominates, and he doesn't even lose the round because of it. Umar's stand-up's pretty good. He's a nice kickboxer from distance. He's got high-level grappling. I think he's going to be able to win the positional battle. I think we're going to see Umar Nurmagomedov shut down Davis and Figueiredo. And I think he's going to be able to get a unanimous decision. And I'll say this, my prediction is he will be less out of breath in his post-fight interview after this fight than he was against Mario Batista. Against Mario Batista, he was absolutely sucking wind, man. Holy shit. I think Umar Nurmagomedov handles business here. It's a Davison Figueiredo who's past his prime at 38, but still good, right? It's not like Davison's a complete can. He's still a sharpshooter from distance with striking. He still has very high-level jiu-jitsu. He still is defensively sound in grappling. It's not like he just destroy him normally in grappling, but I think Umar is going to be able to land some bigger and better shots into the takedowns, controlling from top position. I'm sure Davison finds his way back up a few times. I think they go back to the ground. I think Umar has some moments in the stand-up. I think Davison's looking to throw and land that big shot, and maybe he catches a couple of big shots on Umar, but ultimately Umar is able to survive and overwhelm Davison Figueiredo. And I think it'll be a 15-minute fight. It'll be Umar with a majority of the fight controlling. I will say that more than half of this fight should be Umar Nurmagomedov control time if it goes distance, which I anticipate it is going to. Could Umar pull off a knockout? Maybe. Not necessarily known for the KO, but did sleep Jaime Barcelos. Does he pull off the submission? No. I don't think he submits Davison Figueiredo. Davison Figueiredo is still really high level. Davison Figueiredo is still pretty good. I mean, listen, you got to put some respect on his name. Davison, he's been around forever at this point, and 25-5, you know, still a legit threat. The Corey Sandhagen fight, he got injured. Yes, it was a terrible performance, and I'm not pushing the narrative that he would have won that fight. I think that Corey would have beat him regardless, but I do think, you know, if not for the injury, he would have been more competitive and at the very least would have made it into, you know, the little bit later stages of the fight. I think Umar here pulls off a unanimous decision. He shuts down Davison Figueiredo, puts 2 straight wins together, and unfortunately is not going to be granted the title fight after this unless for a big fumble in the co-main event. We'll get to that fight very shortly. Looking at the betting lines, they are unbettable. Ateba Gautier looks like a value play compared to Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar is a minus 1,500 favorite. That's vast. Opening odds were minus 800. Davison Figueiredo is a plus 850 underdog. I mean, I think there's going to be some people that are tempted to back Davison Figueiredo and look to, you know, call what would be, you know, statistically, I believe the biggest upset of all time, if not very close to the biggest upset of all time. I just don't think so. I don't. I think Umar Nurmagomedov looks good. I don't see Umar getting KO'd. I think he wins by decision. The over 2.5 is minus 200. I anticipate that. I'm going Umar Nurmagomedov to win by unanimous decision. That is the official prediction. All right. I don't know what the line's going to be on the prop. I'm curious what a unanimous decision win for Umar will be. I'm assuming it's going to be like minus 350 to minus 400. Maybe we get lucky and it's a little better than that. And maybe it's worthwhile to potentially touch, but I don't know. I have my doubts around Umar Nurmagomedov by decision looking like a value bet. I mean, if over 2.5 is minus 200, maybe it's minus 150 for him winning by decision. I do think this fight goes over 2.5 at 2-1 odds. So I'm going to say Umar Nurmagomedov, though, by decision. And I like that unanimous decision call. I really do think, I think 30-27 is quite live. You know, I think it would be impressive if Davison Figueiredo pulled a round off against Umar Nurmagomedov. I don't think he will. So Umar for the W to close out the prelims. Let's jump to the main card. If you guys have not yet, make sure you smash that like button. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe it up and be sure to hype the video too. We got Arnold Allen versus John Silva to kick off the main card for the Paramount debut. I don't think you could have a better fight to open up the main card. First thing we'll say that. Holy hell, I love this matchup. I predict that John Silva should go out and win. I do think that John Silva's stand-up is some of the best in the weight class. He's very dangerous with straight shots. He also, outside of the Diego Lopez fight, has shown an ability to be patient before landing the kill shot. That Diego Lopez fight, he actually fought, I would say, uncharacteristically reckless in the matchup. I think it was because he got fucked up so bad in the round one. And then round two came and he cracks Diego with a big straight, buckles his knees. He's like, I'm knocking this guy out this round. And he starts putting everything into every shot and just getting careless. And then ultimately caught with the spinning elbow and he gets TKO'd in what was, a massive upset even at the time for Diego Lopez to pull the win off of a John Silva that seemed to be poised to be fighting for the belt, right? That's the trajectory he was on. Ultimately loses, I think, regains focus, and I think better version of John Silva here. When you fight a guy like Arnold Allen, skillful striker who's well-rounded defensively too, as far as the stand-up goes, and grappling defensively, Arnold Allen is very well-rounded. Not just good offense. He's a guy that blocks shots very well. He moves out of the way of shots very well. Arnold Allen is a hard guy to finish. He's a quick puncher. Arnold Allen can box. He uses the cross block pretty nicely to block big punches. I will say though, I do think in that southpaw stance around a little square, using the cross block a lot, eventually, as that fight goes on, those arms are going to keep getting hit. I think we're going to see Arnold Allen's cross block lose to the power shot of John Silva, who at times also uses that cross block. I think that punch for punch power, John Silva is going to have a pretty serious advantage. Arnold Allen is a quick blitzer. He has some power, but I think of him more as a speedy string four shots together and hurt you type of fighter and explode on you with big shots, as opposed to legitimate one shot flatline KO ability. John Silva is potentially, and I would say maybe is, the hardest puncher at 145 right now. I'd say probably is the hardest puncher at 145. And I think that John Silva landing straights on Arnold Allen, even if it's not in round one, eventually they will start to get through. And I think we're going to see a more patient John Silva in this fight. John Silva, you go back to the Drew Dober fight, he showed a lot of calm and patience as he picked Drew Dober apart and got the doctor stoppage. It's like the opposite of what we saw against Diego Lopez. I'm telling you, I think we have a more mature John Silva with just a bit of that humble pie that he needed last time to actually become a title threat. I think Arnold Allen is very much so one of the top 7 guys in this weight class. The problem is, I think John Silva stylistically is a bad matchup. The best skill that Arnold Allen has is his, I would say, effective kickboxing and volume striking. Problem is he's dealing with a guy in John Silva who has the one punch impact. I think John Silva is going to land some straight punches on Arnold Allen. I think he's going to frustrate Allen. I think Allen will try and blitz, but in doing so, he does come inside of range with the head squared up and sometimes coming forward over the body as he's throwing shots. And I think with John Silva, you cannot make those little nuanced mistakes, man. You make them, you're fucked. Those little small mistakes, put them out. I think John Silva is going to end up landing the kill shot. Now, Arnold Allen said he's been training hard. He's been getting better. He's at TriStar. Even though he's been on a long layoff, it's been a lot of skill improvement. I think it has, I'm sure. The difference is skill set improvement versus in-fight readiness when you haven't fought in a while. And the most difficult fight, stylistically, maybe the most difficult fight of his life. I know that the Max Holloway fight was incredibly difficult. Holloway is one of the GOATs, right, of this weight class. But Max Holloway at 145 was never known for flatlining people. He was known for volume and accumulation of damage. John Silva puts people flat out. The Movsar Evloev fight, listen, if not for a different rule set, he might get that decision, beating Giga Chikadze's ass. Absolutely. Arnold Allen is really a good striker. Arnold Allen's well-rounded. Arnold Allen's got good cardio. Arnold Allen can push a pace. Arnold Allen's fast, but he's fighting John Silva. I think John Silva is the more precise striker between the two, and I think he gets strikes through that guard. I see Arnold Allen getting caught down the center, and I think Allen is going to end up getting hurt in this fight. I am not confident that he can survive 15 minutes with John Silva, specifically in a striking fight. Now, I would not be shocked if Faraz Sahabi and the team says, hey, we're going to look to wrestle. And they're going to look to take John Silva down, maybe get to mount. And Arnold Allen's best chance is probably turning into more of a Movsar Evloev pressure style with a bit of the striking blitzes and combinations as he backs John Silva up. I'm just not ready to say John Silva's getting dominated on the ground by Arnold Allen, who, yes, has good jiu-jitsu. Yes, he does. He does. Arnold Allen's got good submissions. Arnold Allen's good on the ground. But I still base his game on stand-up arsenal. The striking arsenal is his bread and butter. And I don't think he's going to go beyond himself and be able to just turn into a Movsar Evloev, from the UK version of fighter in this matchup here. I find that hard to confidently assume. So I'm going to go John Silva by knockout. But I will tell you, I think Arnold Allen is very good. I think Arnold Allen is a sick fight for John Silva. And the winner is 100% in the mix of elites, and definitely is putting, their name in the hat for, at the very least, the number one contender fight. But, the winner of this fight is probably close to the title, right? I would say, especially for John Silva, they want to set up like a John Silva title fight. But I do think, regardless, John Silva needs one more, and I would say the same about Arnold Allen with a victory. So the winner of this fight probably fights in a number one contender fight next. So this is like the fight away from the number one contender fight. Looking at the odds, Allen is a plus 215 underdog. I get it. I get why people want to back that side. I understand. The problem is you have to rely on him being near perfect defensively, because I genuinely believe John Silva with a clean shot, that exact punch he lands on Diego Lopez, he hits Arnold Allen with, I'm not confident that Arnold Allen takes that punch. It's not that Arnold Allen doesn't have a good chin. It's that John Silva's power is out of this world, and I think Diego Lopez has a one-of-one chin. John Silva, minus 255 is the favorite. Makes sense. I understand. So I'm going to favor the side of John Silva doing some damage and handling business. I think so. The over is minus 140. Isn't that interesting? Betting lines favoring an over in this fight here. Allen by decision plus 300. Silva by decision plus 160. The KO plus 175. Wow. So there is an expectation of a very patient John Silva. I still think he's live to find the knockout shot. And I know, you look at Arnold Allen's career, nobody shut the lights off yet. He hasn't fought John Silva. Man. It's just different with John Silva. I really think his power is a separating mark between him and the rest of the division. Anything else catching my eye here? They got a lot of the props out. Wow. I mean, listen, if you're picking Arnold Allen, I got nothing but respect for you. I understand the argument that Arnold Allen mixing in some takedowns, putting the pressure on John Silva, and then John Silva, you'll be under the assumption, didn't make vast improvements in 4 months since the Diego Lopez fight in his grappling. What if I told you I think that he put a ton of work into escaping mount and bottom position? I'm not thinking that John Silva is bankrupt on the ground. I think Diego Lopez caught him by surprise and ended up in a perfect position. And I don't think Arnold Allen necessarily has that type of success. Not saying he couldn't land a takedown or two. Not saying we couldn't see Arnold Allen in top position controlling a bit. But I think that John Silva should be okay. And I think John Silva's stand-up is going to absolutely shine in this matchup against Arnold Allen. So the prediction is going to be John Silva to pull it off here against Arnold Allen on the Paramount main card debut. Next fight on the card, the ladies going after it. Natália Silva versus Thug Rose Namajunas. I'm going to go Natália Silva by decision. You have to go with, the blossoming top contender. Really, I thought that Natália Silva's next fight, being this one, would have been a title shot. But instead, she steps in on short notice to replace Alexa Grasso against a legend of women's MMA. I think it's a good strategy. And you know what? At 28, got none but time. Natália Silva is a sharp striker with high volume. She's very good with lateral movement, throwing nice kicks from the outside, flurrying punches together, and being hard to track down and hit clean. It's a frustrating style that Natália Silva brings to the table. Now, Thug Rose Namajunas is no joke in the stand-up game. Thug Rose is a sharp, straight punch shooter. She does have pretty good kicks. Obviously, a nasty high kick knockout of Weili Zhang many years ago. Rose Namajunas is very light on her feet and does dart in and out of range really well. But I think Natália Silva is going to be a bit of a puzzle with those kicks from the outside and the flurries that she throws. I think they frustrate Rose Namajunas, the amount of volume that Natália Silva attacks with. And I don't necessarily think Rose Namajunas does a great job chasing Natália Silva around the outside of the octagon for 15 minutes. I think Natália is going to find some success, landing some decent shots. I don't think she rocks Thug Rose and KOs her or anything like that. And I'm sure that Thug Rose could have a couple moments in striking, especially I could see her landing like a good straight or a body kick into some straight punches in range, things of that magnitude. But I think Natália Silva's volume is going to be too much. And I think her speed is going to be too much, specifically the footwork and the lateral movement. I think Natália Silva is going to find the target quite often here against Thug Rose Namajunas. And I see Natália outworking her over 15 minutes. I could see a 29-28. I think this fight is live to be a unanimous decision, but one that, Thug Rose maybe takes a round. Thug Rose in striking fights is still, one of the best in the game. It's just, I think Natália Silva is the now. The footwork is very different than the rest of the weight class. The volume, I would say just overall strike speed, almost at hand speed, but I'd say his overall strike speed, the ability to land multiple shots, elements of the fight that I think give Rose Namajunas some pause here in this one. And I think that Natália Silva is a frustrating fighter to deal with. I wouldn't be surprised if Rose tries and grapples a tad, but I think that Natália Silva defensively and grappling is also going to be relatively strong. And potentially I could see Natália Silva end up, taking Thug Rose down and maybe threaten with a bit of grappling, using some pressure against the cage and things like that. So I'm going to favor the side of the youthful striker on the rise in Natália Silva, who seems destined to now fight for the belt after this one, if she is successful, which I anticipate she will be. I think she adds a legendary name to the resume. She's got Alexa Grasso last time, who was actually the initial opponent for Rose Namajunas. And now she can add Thug Rose to the resume as well. So big things on the horizon for Natália Silva. I think the volume, the lateral movement, and the strike speed should be too much for still sharp striker in Thug Rose, but I don't see it. I don't see her beating Natália. Looking at the betting lines, my word, -410. Natália Silva is a disgusting favorite in this spot. Rose Namajunas is +310 on the opposite side of things. I don't like the odds being this wide when you have a former champion in Thug Rose. Is still a very good striker and fighter overall in Thug Rose, but I do think they're on to the right call because I think Natália is getting it on the cards. I think this fight goes over 2.5. It's -405. You don't have many options as far as, those lines go with the props just yet. They'll be dropping in the next day or two. So keep your eyes open on it if you're interested in the prop end side. Nonetheless, I'm going to favor Natália Silva to be able to defeat Thug Rose. I'm excited to see this fight, though, because I question how Natália deals with those darts in and out of range from Rose when she comes in with those lightning speed straights. I think Natália's head movement's pretty good. I think she rolls with the shots okay. But I also think, like, as Rose looks to enter, Natália will kind of start flurrying shots. And I could see that frustrating Thug Rose and kind of throwing the rhythm off of the usual blitzes. This is a very, different stylistic matchup for Rose Namajunas than, more recent fights against, Miranda Maverick, who's, more grappling heavy, or Tracy Cortez, who's more grappling heavy, or even Amanda Ribas, who's more grappling heavy with some striking. Like, this is a legit threat in stand-up. We haven't seen Thug Rose versus more of a, striker first. Granted, Natália does have a, base of jiu-jitsu since the Man on Furo fight, where Rose was okay. I mean, 2 years, 4 months ago, the index finger broke. Still had some moments. Still was able to go 3 rounds. Like, I think she goes 3 rounds. I think maybe she nabs a round, but Natália should just do more. And I'm going to favor Natália Silva getting the hand raised by unanimous decision. Next fight on the card is our featured fight of the night. We got Waldo Cortes-Acosta versus the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis. Oh, my word. I'm going with Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I think it's the now in Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Primed, accuracy is there, timing on his shots there, confidence is through the roof. I mean, the guy's winning back-to-back fights in a very short window of time. I mean, 2 months and 2 wins. And, if you look at the year that he's had, has been nothing short of amazing, right? Like, look at March, gets a win against Ryan Spann, right? Then June to beating Sergey Spivak on short notice. To then the next fight against Sergey Pavlovich. Yes, he loses, but he goes distance with Sergey. Then Ante Deliha knockout, Shamil Gaziev knockout. It was a massive year for him. 5 fights in a year, 4-1 record. Waldo Cortes-Acosta has become a perennial contender now, and he takes on a Derrick Lewis, who did have a big win 6 months ago. He was able to knock out Taliesin Teixeira with a weird KO, dropped him with a big shot. Teixeira was like grabbing the cage to get back up to the feet. The referee, Herzog, stops it. Strange fight. Before that, it was over a year layoff. He beat Nascimento, but if you guys remember, it was kind of a slower paced fight. And though Derrick Lewis found the knockout, I do feel like, the Nascimento win, first and foremost, means shit because Nascimento's losing fights in PFL now. But on top of that, Derrick Lewis was kind of looking slow throughout the early portions of the fight. And, he's got the big one punch, of course. That's what he's known for. And it's the weird stoppage against Taliesin Teixeira last time out. Now he takes on Waldo Cortes-Acosta. That's absolutely a sharp blade with activity. Waldo Cortes-Acosta that went distance against Sergey Pavlovich, who's an absolute power hitter and knocked out Derrick Lewis in less than a minute many years ago, but still was able to do it. I think Waldo's sharp boxing should be a bit too much for Delu, but I must add, with Derrick Lewis, there is always a chance of knockout. But on the flip side of that, Derrick Lewis tends to confidently enter the range, throwing big hooks, right? He likes to load up on the power shots and enter the range without much worry of what's coming back at him. He's got a former professional boxer in Waldo Cortes-Acosta across from him, okay? Waldo has a sniper of a straight right that has consistently been getting to the target in the past two fights, and I think Waldo Cortes-Acosta has really started to come into his own in his mixed martial arts career now. At 34 years old, Waldo is in his absolute prime. Can I say the same for Derrick Lewis? Not necessarily, no. The power is always there, but no. I think that Derrick Lewis could end up getting clubbed by a big right hand from Waldo as he recklessly enters range. And then Waldo with the counter shot hurts Derrick Lewis. I think Derrick Lewis goes down, and I think he stays down. We saw Derrick Lewis throwing reckless abandon bombs years ago against Tai Tuivasa, right? Tuivasa able to survive the onslaught and then break Derrick Lewis and knock him out. Waldo Cortes-Acosta has never been knocked out in mixed martial arts. Yes, in pro boxing he has been KO'd, but in MMA, rolls with the punches incredibly well, and I'd say seems to have an iron chin. So defensively also being sound. On top of that, Waldo is not a guy that you can easily land head strikes on. Yes, was outboxed by Sergey Pavlovich. The other losses years ago against Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Derrick Lewis actually, knocked de Lima out in like 30 seconds. You look back years ago. But MMA math is irrelevant. But a lot of people slept on D. Lewis' dog in that fight. I picked him back then. What I'm saying is the way that de Lima beat him, attacked the legs, right? Derrick Lewis going punch for punch. I don't see a crazy leg kick approach. And also Waldo has kind of shored up that weakness after, several years. Boxing for boxing. I think Waldo is more accurate. I think Waldo is more primed. I think Waldo is going to be more precise. And I think, yes, Derrick Lewis has outworldly power, right? It's not human almost. It's more the element of precision. Derrick Lewis is going to need to be precise to catch Waldo clean. What he's going to have to do, he's going to have to blitz forward. He's going to have to get Waldo up against the cage, not pressing him against the cage, but get his back up against the cage. And he's going to have to force Waldo into a wild exchange. At times, if you watch, Waldo against the cage will sometimes pitter-patter some slapping shots, a little wild. He did it against D'Elia right before getting eye poked. And in that moment, that is where Derrick Lewis can connect with a perfect shot on the chin. But if it is in space, and Derrick Lewis is unsuccessful on getting Waldo to exchange wild with him against the cage, I think Derrick Lewis is more live to be knocked out in open range here. I'm going to say Waldo Cortes-Acosta, with the sharp boxing, is able to pick his shots nicely and find the kill shot on Derrick Lewis. And another element of Waldo, he attacks the body nicely. Now, of course, with high risk against a guy in Derrick Lewis who one shot can absolutely just flatline you. But I will emphasize, the body of Derrick Lewis in the past has been a weak point. We've seen him hurt with body shots in the past. I could see Waldo attacking the body a bit, which leads to headshots opening up, and I think that a straight right hand to the dome is very likely. I say Waldo Cortes-Acosta probably knocks Derrick Lewis out 4 out of the 5 fights, but there is 1 out of those 5 fights that Derrick Lewis is able to get him up against the cage, not pressed, but pushed forward, right? Pushed up against the cage, but not clinch, backed up against the cage, I guess would be the proper terminology, and explode on him with a big combination, forcing him to a wild barrage and knocking him out. There's a possibility, 1 in 5. I'm telling you, there is. But most likely, Waldo Cortes-Acosta is able to knock Derrick Lewis out in space and is able to slay the Black Beast, the knockout king himself. I'm going to go with the more primed fighter in Waldo. who's been crazy active, who I think with a win is in the, title picture for certain. It's hard to deny him. At the very least, the number one contender fight. Volkov fight is on the horizon with a win here. Waldo really on the perennial brink of superstardom if he's able to take out a guy like Derrick Lewis. And I anticipate that Waldo Cortes-Acosta does take out Derrick Lewis. I'm going to pick Where's Waldo by KO over one of the all-time favorites for probably all of us in Derrick Lewis. Waldo's a minus 350 favorite, understandably so. Lewis plus 285 dog. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. The odds are very sensible here. Under a round and a half plus 120. I think we are live to end up going under, but I understand the thoughts of going over because Waldo can be patient. Fight ends by KO, most likely. KO for Waldo, minus 125. KO for Lewis, sitting at plus 350. What's Waldo KO round one? Waldo KO round one, you got me curious now. Plus 325. I could see it in the first round. I could see him catching D-Lou with something big right on the chin. He's been Mr. First round KO. His timings look impeccable. I mean, if you look, since Derrick Lewis's last fight, right, which was 6 months ago, we've seen him 3 times. Waldo's got 3 fights, and he fought a month before D-Lou. So the activity difference is something that I think matters because what active fighting does is obviously makes you more comfortable to get in there. Granted, Derrick Lewis has been doing this forever, but on top of it, the timing of Waldo seems to be getting better and better and better. And the fact that he just fought a month ago and now he's back again, coming out unscathed in these fights. Yeah, I'm going Where's Waldo to win by KO. He should defeat Derrick Lewis here and become one of the top contenders in the heavyweight division, slaying the Black Beast and the Knockout King himself. Next fight, co-main event. Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. I think it's time the Sugar Show gets back on business. I think it's time the Sugar Show gets a W. I'm sick of this shit, man. The Sugar Show is back. Let me tell you, this matchup is one that I really like for Sean O'Malley. Song Yadong is an explosive puncher. He does have nasty hooks, and he's a, good boxer, but it's his crazy explosiveness that gets him to the target. With a 5-inch reach disadvantage here for Song Yadong and a style that, his greatest success with boxing is more so landing wide punches. I think Sean O'Malley can have an absolute field day working some straight shots from distance, man. I think Sean O'Malley's going to look sharp in this fight. I anticipate that the long jab of O'Malley into the straight rights are going to be pretty effective here on Song Yadong. I'll tell you this. I think Song Yadong's team, Alpha Male, I think they're thinking the same thing. Okay, Song, yeah, you hit hard, but O'Malley from distance is different. I think they're going to come in with a wrestling-heavy game plan. I think they're going to try and implement what Merab was able to do to Sean O'Malley. Pressure, takedown, control from top, beat him up a bit. The problem is Song Yadong is not a wrestler first. He has takedown ability, absolutely, but Song Yadong does not have a substantial control ability, right? He's able to get a couple people down. Like, I believe he even took Piotr Yan down. But with his takedowns, it doesn't equal dominance from top position, and he's not a high-level chain wrestler. So where that strategy goes awry is the fact that Merab can, try to take you down 35 times in a fight and can also control you from top position, whereas Song can maybe hit a couple takedowns, can't really control much, and I don't see him as a very good chain wrestler. It's more one-off takedowns. Into that, you could argue that, well, the threat of the takedown could potentially open up strikes on the feet. I think that's the goal, right? The threat of the takedown opens up Song Yadong to enter range and land big head strikes, specifically hooks, as he backs Sean O'Malley up. The problem is, I think O'Malley's going to look good, man. I think Sean O'Malley's camps from Merab, as bad as those fights went, those camps certainly improved in his defensive wrestling abilities, okay? I think Sean O'Malley is going to look sharp from range. I think Sean O'Malley is going to be able to pick off Song Yadong from distance, land some good teeps to the body, land some nice straight shots. If he can catch Song Yadong at the end of his punch, I think he's live to knock Song Yadong out. I definitely think that he's able to do damage. Now, Song seems to have just a very stubborn durability. If you look at Song Yadong's fighting career, inside of the UFC, he has the doctor stoppage loss to Corey Sandhagen. Outside of that, okay, he has not been KO'd since 2016 And it was, in what, KLF against a random Russian? 2016. How old is Song Yadong? He's 18 years old. I think Sean O'Malley has precise power and can definitely get to Song Yadong, and I could see him stinging him with some big shots, but I'm hard pressed to say that Sean O'Malley is going to be able to put Song away. I think he can do some damage to him. I think he can bust him up a bit. I think he can outstrike him, but I think Sean O'Malley is going to be looking quick on the feet. I think he's going to be moving fast. I think he's going to be picking off shots well from range. I think he's going to be working some good teeps to the body. I think Song Yadong is going to be, kind of, caught just, reaching for wind as he throws wild shots, or swinging wind, I should say, as he's throwing wild shots and missing from range and probably fails a few takedowns. I'm thinking maybe he gets a couple, but I don't see him controlling for a substantial amount of time. I think Sean O'Malley's going to be able to get back up to his feet if he is taken down, and I think Sean O'Malley's able to work, man. I'm not saying it's the Chris Moutinho fight on repeat, but I think that the lateral movement and O'Malley's distance striking and Song Yadong kind of just being forced to be the bull here with O'Malley, a very, very sleek matador, should be the ultimate difference maker between the two. So my prediction is going to be Sean O'Malley outstrikes Song Yadong, lands some really clean shots on the feet, able to pick him apart from range. And I think Sean O'Malley is taking home a pretty clear, unanimous decision win over the Kung Fu Kid, the nickname now, Song Yadong. I think we're going to see Sean O'Malley show out here. And I think he pulls home. I think it could be a 30-27, but Song Yadong's good, though. He's very athletic. He's freakishly explosive. He has power. I'm not saying Song doesn't have any moments in the fight. I just think O'Malley has a lot more moments, and I think O'Malley lands a lot of good shots from distance and looks to be the sharper guy, looks to be clearly the faster guy. And I think a motivated, in shape Sean O'Malley shines in a matchup like this and should show out. I would love to see him be the first guy to actually knock Song Yadong out in the UFC. If he can catch him with a straight shot, right to the dome, right at the end of his punch, possibility of such, but I'm not extremely confident in making that call for a Sean O'Malley KO. But I do think a KO is possible, but I do favor the decision, man. Song Yadong's got a fucking chin on him. Plus 170 for Song Yadong. Sean O'Malley sitting at minus 200 as the favorite in this spot here. Now, as far as some of the other options here, let's see what we're looking at. The whole prop slew is out for this fight right here. O'Malley is a 2-1 favorite. Makes a lot of sense. I am favoring him by decision. Yes, I wish I could call the KO, but I'm not going to make a wishful thinking call. O'Malley by decision plus 110. KO's plus 325. Let's see. Is there a significant strike mark that I can look at right now? Did I miss it? No, I don't even see it. They don't have the significant strike marks up yet. Okay. Well, I think that Sean O'Malley should land more significant strikes throughout the fight. And I think Sean O'Malley should find success really boxing up Song Yadong, evading some of Song's big power shots that he likes to throw, defending some of the takedowns, maybe getting taken down, but not the end of the world. And then O'Malley with volume, picking them apart, landing the bigger and better shots, and showing out here. Sean O'Malley's last KO win was the Aljamain Sterling perfect shot. So, I mean, granted, if he lands a perfect shot, it's not an impossibility that he puts out a Song Yadong. But, I think Song's durability is good. So, I'm going to go Sean O'Malley, unanimous decision. Let's get to the main event. If you guys are watching and enjoying, make sure you guys hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe it up and hype the video too. We got Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett for the interim lightweight championship. The pick is Paddy the Baddy. The pick has been Paddy the Baddy. I said this, long ago. This matchup is not it for Gaethje. And I know a lot of people are like, well, Justin Gaethje's striking, though. What about his calf kicks? What about it? What about his punches over the top? What about it? Yes, he hits like a Mack truck. Yes, he's got nasty calf kicks. The problem is Paddy Pimblett is absolutely primed at 31. Gaethje's 37. Let's not act like this is the Gaethje that looked like a maestro against Tony Ferguson 5 years ago. That's not the case in this matchup here. This is a Justin Gaethje who, yes, is coming off a nice win over Figueiredo, but was, kind of an awkward mounted triangle position from him. And then, the fight before, knocked out badly by Max Holloway. Granted, took a chance, and it was a great fight. And listen, there's a lot of respect to be had on the Justin Gaethje name. But regardless of that fact, Paddy Pimblett stylistically is a bad matchup. Why? Because Paddy Pimblett is a big lightweight, and he's a lightweight that has underrated boxing and kickboxing. I do think something people sleep on with Paddy Pimblett is his hand speed. They act like he can't strike at all. Like people just think Paddy is bankrupt on the feet and it's just grappling. Justin Gaethje's a big power hitter, but Justin Gaethje leaves a lot to be desired defensively. Okay, he's a guy that absorbs mass damage. That's what his whole career is built on, being able to absorb crazy amounts of damage and then come back with bigger shots, right? I think Paddy Pimblett might get caught with some big ones, and I'd like to see that chin getting tested because the Scousers don't get knocked out. I want to find out. I could see Gaethje catching him with some punches, and I think Paddy's able to take the shots, and I think Paddy can fire some shots back. I think Paddy could threaten Gaethje with some big kicks to the head. An element of this fight that I think is interesting, though, is not the traditional wrestling takedowns. Paddy doesn't win this fight by just, old school folk style wrestling. No. Body lock trips, body lock takedowns against the cage, body lock to a back take. Paddy Pimblett, I think from the body lock position, from the clinch, she'll find a good amount of success here against Justin Gaethje. I think Paddy Pimblett has a massive advantage when they tie up. Now, I know a lot of pundits, they're like, yo, but Gaethje's wrestling. A lot of fans, I should say, maybe not the pundits as much, but a lot of people tend to say, well, Justin Gaethje was a wrestler. Justin Gaethje was a collegiate wrestler, but he is not an MMA wrestler. Justin Gaethje is a striker. He's a boxer, kickboxer with big power and nasty calf kicks, but he's also a guy that takes a lot of damage to land a lot of damage. At 37, I don't think he's going to have the same timing that he once did. I do think Paddy Pimblett can find some big shots on the feet. I think the grappling of Justin Gaethje, specifically the jiu-jitsu, is such a deficiency here. Being mounted triangled by a kickboxer in Figueiredo is a bad look against a guy in Paddy Pimblett that has high-level BJJ. Paddy Pimblett is slick on the mat. Paddy Pimblett getting to Justin Gaethje's back feels very live here. But I know there's a crazy call, and I'm not saying he does this, but I could see Paddy Pimblett somehow ending up in the mounted triangle top position and getting Gaethje out of there and submitting him with the triangle like he did Bobby Green. I could see Paddy Pimblett looking to jump some flying submission. I saw him practicing flying triangles. I think that Paddy Pimblett is going to be able to tie up with Gaethje and get it into his realm, which is the jiu-jitsu. And I think when they hit the mat, the differential of jiu-jitsu skills between the two of them is insane. It's insane. Yeah, sure, Gaethje can stop, the traditional takedowns, but the level of BJJ difference is too much. Justin Gaethje's weakness is BJJ. Paddy's strength is BJJ. But on top of that, I don't think Paddy Pimblett's a dead man in the stand-up. I think Paddy Pimblett could definitely catch Justin Gaethje with some straight shots. Paddy's deceptively quick with his hands, and he's got some heavy kicks to go alongside of it. And Paddy's also a large lightweight, too. It's not like, Gaethje has this big size advantage on him. I see Paddy Pimblett taking home the finish. I expect a finish. I expect a submission finish, more specifically. But I'm not opposed to the idea that Paddy Pimblett actually rocks Justin Gaethje with a punch on the feet. I'm not opposed to the idea that Paddy Pimblett finds success in striking too, into then finding the success in grappling. I think ultimately Gaethje, he's going to look to throw his typical hard bombs. He's going to look to close that gap with big shots. And sure, if he lands a big overhand to the chin, always damaging. But the way that Justin Gaethje fights, his defense is in the back of his mind, not even. Beyond it. It's not in his head. It's to land the kill shot. Best defense is a good offense. As Justin Gaethje whiffs on shots, I could see Paddy Pimblett firing back a straight that rocks Justin Gaethje. I can see Paddy Pimblett cracking Justin Gaethje and hurting him as Gaethje's getting crazy. And I can see Justin Gaethje getting crazy, looking to throw big power shots, being completely out of position, and Paddy Pimblett finding a back take, finding a potential opportunity to snatch a neck. I think Paddy Pimblett wins by sub. Rear naked strangle makes like the most sense, right? But there's a possibility that Paddy Pimblett catches him with, a front choke of some kind, front headlock position, potentially even a triangle. Like the way that, Justin Gaethje was mounted triangled and then Khabib put him out, right? We could see a similar move from Paddy Pimblett in this fight. I could see the triangle landing for Paddy the Baddy. I'm going Paddy Pimblett by sub, and I think he looks good doing it and becomes the interim champ. Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Topuria is a massive fight later this year. Hopefully sooner rather than later, because I want to see this Arman Tsarukyan title fight as well. So we shall see what happens after the fact. But nonetheless, Paddy the Baddy should be able to handle Justin Gaethje in this one. And I think Paddy the Baddy is going to look pretty good when this fight gets to the mat, but I think he might look a lot better than people expect while these two are striking. Looking at the age difference, I also think that's a serious thing to consider. 37-year-old Gaethje, a guy whose career is built upon taking some serious damage. Oh, man, I think Paddy could even land big shots on the feet. Don't be sleeping on Paddy the Baddy. But nonetheless, I think Paddy dominates this fight on the ground and gets the submission finish. One-way traffic and an interim championship belt around Paddy's waist as they look to really build him up into a big mega star for Paramount heading into the later stage of this year. Expect a big fight. And assumingly, Ilia Topuria. If not, it could be Arman Tsarukyan for a vacant belt if things go awry with Topuria. But let's look at the odds real quick. Minus 225, Paddy Pimblett, plus 190 for Justin Gaethje. So I think Paddy the Baddy by sub. That's my Mystic Mac call for this card. That's my Mystic Mac call for this fight. Listen, it's the Mystic Mac J. Looking at Gaethje to win by sub. Yeah, Gaethje by sub, plus 3,300, bro. Paddy by sub, plus 145. I anticipate a sub. I'll tell you this. Paddy to win inside the distance, it's minus 155. That also makes a ton of sense. Granted, no, you're not getting plus money. If you were to find the kill shot and get the knockout over Gaethje, which is, you know, a lot less likely, but not a complete impossibility. I do think inside distance at minus 155 is quite live. Knockout for Pimblett at plus 350 feels less likely because I assume even if he's to hurt Gaethje on the feet, which I anticipate he's live to do, it would lead into a club and sub as opposed to some big shots raining down and him knocking Gaethje out. So I favor Paddy by sub. I could see a gilly. I could see a rear naked choke. I could see a triangle. There's a lot of ways that he wins by sub. So submission is going to be my confident prop call in this one. At plus 145, I'm going Paddy the Baddy to win via submission, defeat Justin Gaethje, become the interim champ, and set up this damn Ilia Topuria fight, which I think many of us cannot wait for. Hopefully it happens. That is the full card predictions for you guys. Starting the year off right. I'm feeling great about it. I'm so happy to be back on business. 6 weeks off, way too long, okay? We got content every day. You're back with back on business, Jay. Keep it locked in with me. Make sure you guys smash the like button on the video. Let me know in the comments. What do you think? You agree with my predictions for this card? You got some you disagree with? Maybe, you know, drop some of your favorite picks. And if you disagree with some, drop some of the favorites that you don't agree with me on, because I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. I love each and every one of you guys. If it's your first time on the channel, or maybe you've tuned in before, but you haven't, make sure you subscribe. Also, hype the video. That's YouTube's new thing. And if you really got nothing to say in the comments, you just want to support me, W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. Thank you all for watching. We're back. It's 2026. It's UFC on Paramount. It's back on business, Jay. Keep it locked in with the content every single day, and I'll see you all in the next one, all right? Peace out, everybody.